So, what do you imagine a person that is right now an employee is at a
Mhm.
typical standard company? How could a person like that use your system to improve their situation?
First of all, automate your job.
Good start.
Uh,
Hello and welcome to the official episode 1 of the Code and Conquer podcast. Today our guest is Anton von Hunerbein with his product Autory.ai. We're talking about artificial intelligence, automation, the best food to cook as an indie hacker with a full schedule, and owning the means of production. I hope you enjoy the episode, and let's jump right in. And we're off for the first episode. Welcome, my name is Tobias Arweiler, and I have a guest with me. He's called Anton von Hunerbein with his indie hacker journey software project Autory.ai. And this is the first episode of Code and Conquer, the first ever episode, so I expect some failures on the way. And hi, Anton, how are you doing today?
Hello, Tobias. I'm doing fantastic. You're going the classic indie hacker route, just getting right into it.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
We'll try to restrict the episode for 1 hour, but we will see how that works out because I always like to talk about this stuff. So maybe we do a 3-hour first episode and then everyone has to listen to it.
I'm sure that will really get people engaged. That's the way.
Yeah. If they have to take like 3 days and 3 long walks to actually listen to one episode, that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get right into it, and let's just talk a little about Autory.ai, what it is, and maybe how you got that idea.
So, hello, I'm Anton, and I'm building Autory.ai. What it is, it's an low-code automation platform. You can imagine it like a drag and drop flowchart where each module in the flowchart automates some part of the journey. And the real focus with Autory is combining APIs with AI. Because what we think the biggest problem right now with AI is that it makes for a good brain, but it has very little ability to interact meaningfully with the real world. If you're using ChatGPT and you're trying to write an email to a coworker, you're giving this thing, hey, please draft this email, and then you give it the context, right? That doesn't really save you much time. It sort of just fleshes out a to-do list, but I think fundamentally boring. What we're looking for is to chain 10 different steps together, sort of it reads in the email, it classifies it into a couple of categories, and then does steps XYZ. And this doesn't just mean email, you can also, parse PDFs and that sort of stuff. Anyway, that's what Autory is. And the place where it's coming from is that so I'm launching it with 2 other guys, and we're all 3 in cybersecurity. And cybersecurity has a ridiculous amount of repetitive tasks. And from scanning a host to simply making lookups for different vulnerabilities, it's really tedious. And we built a system which allows us to basically chain Python blocks together a long time ago. And we thought it was the coolest thing. And then a competitor launched, and they got 260 million in funding.
Wow.
And we thought they were doing a truly excellent job, and we didn't know, okay, they are so strong, and we like their product so much, we don't think we're adding anything here. So it died down, classic sort of stuff. And then I've been freelancing for on Upwork for a while now, for about a year since then. And I've been practically only doing automation projects. And about 6 months ago, the hype really started on AI. And so what I've been doing is I've been automating AI applications for people. So, and that is, auto-generating marketing, creating basically automated A/B testing using a natural language algorithm, which then taking the information off these platforms that you have, for instance, like Google Ads tells you, hey, this is how many people clicked on it, this is how many people engaged, or whatever. And these are the keywords that truly worked well. And for a lot of these problems where there's high chaos, or where there's high, like, very different inputs, natural language does beautifully.
Yeah, that's a great use case for it, actually.
Yeah. And since then, I've discovered a couple more, and it's generally been it's the same template, which is API interaction, a little bit of Python code to just connect the APIs together, and then calling ChatGPT or whatever the AI algorithm of the day is. And I remembered, hey, we have this incredible backend, which we still think is the coolest thing around. Let's boot it up again. Let's move it into the AI space. Yeah, and that's how the idea sort of came alive.
So it's pretty much, if you would compare it to a tool like Zapier, which has been on the market for quite some time, what's the biggest addition to that, or what do you do different than those tools do right now?
Zapier is strong. They're really impressive. What they do very well is they have these 5,000 different apps that you can connect to one another. But I think Zapier, in the way that they implement it, is gimmicky. They want you to connect two APIs directly to one another, and they need you to keep your basically API calls below 30 seconds, so that the total execution time takes less than 30 seconds, and they are simply not suited for AI. The last year that I've been, or these last 6 months that I've been working on AI, I've been getting paid top dollar to prompt engineer, which is just using a little bit of understanding, and me having used these algorithms a whole lot, to sort of write language in a way that gets consistent results in a way that the client wants. So for the people that don't know what prompt engine is, basically you have these large language algorithms, and you write them questions and they return answers. And the skill that I'm quite good at now is writing questions, or putting statements in a way that these language models can interpret them and output meaningful information.
And there's already a market to do this as a freelancer? Because I wasn't aware of that. I'm trying a lot of prompt engineering right now, and I didn't know that you can actually sell this skill already.
Quite frankly, it's ridiculous. I have too much work.
Which is a pretty good thing to say, I think. Yeah.
Sure. For the last launch, it was a bit tough. Hey, but money is lovely.
Yeah.
I appreciate money. But I mean, and the hype is massive around it right now. But simply, there are so many applications that are relevant here. And are you familiar with embeddings? Or maybe I just...
Yeah, you can explain. I have read like the documentation, but to be honest with you, I didn't really understand it. So you're gonna help me as well.
Fair enough. So what embeddings are is they extract semantic meaning out of text. So you give it a block of a paragraph, and it breaks it down to a number line, just as 1, 0, 223, something
Mhm.
like that. Now, what you can do with this is you can break thousands of paragraphs down to their semantic meaning, and you can make them searchable by breaking your question down again to the semantic meaning and then multiplying, basically dot producting this number line with all the rest and extracting the most similar one. For
So
instance,
right
yeah.
now that definition is very theoretical, I think.
Okay,
For some people that
cool.
might not be too familiar with it, can you make
Yeah.
it more like explain like I'm 5?
All right. I'm going to start with semantic.
Mhm.
Semantic captures the meaning of some text. Basically, you can search anything by meaning, and it won't just pull up one-to-one matches. Like you're not looking for the word carrot in any database, but if you look for if you type as a query carrot, you might get other vegetables or something like that, which is related to it. And this is super handy because we saw a massive improvement in these systems in the last couple of years. And what it allows you to do is, for instance, I've got a client who has thousands of PDFs on work safety. Now, what this guy would like me to do is he would like me to scan all of those in, and he would like to make them meaningfully available to him. And there is many of these applications where you can construct very intelligent knowledge bases from your docs to QA bots for your system. And I'm seeing that as the second sort of big hype right now,
Mhm.
especially in freelancing. There's a lot of people who are interested in semantizing their entire knowledge base.
So what you can do with the embeddings in the end is I have some knowledge base already, like a written wiki with all my company data and stuff, all the onboarding stuff, or how do I make an invoice when I'm a project leader, right? And then I can scan all of that into the system, and then I can ask the system something like, how do I scan an invoice, or how do I, like, I'm a new employee, tell me the most important things that I have to know.
That's exactly right.
And that's gonna be amazing.
Hey, it already is.
Yeah,
That's
I gotta tell you, I'm very, very surprised that the freelancer market has already picked up on that. I didn't think that would be the case already, to be honest.
Why does that surprise you?
I think, like, for me, when I'm experiencing the hype myself right now, and for me it just picks up right now. So maybe I'm a little in the wrong Twitter bubble, or maybe I had a later start than some people, right?
Yep.
But I didn't think that we would have that layer of professionality added to it already. Like the things that I see for 90% on my Twitter feed that are talking about AI is still experimenting and still doing like small little projects for themselves, but not that professional level. I can see that level creeping up right now, but I think
Yeah.
you're very, like, you're at the forefront of the people doing this, is my feeling right now.
Well, thank you.
I might be wrong, right? But that's my feeling and my experience having been on Twitter the last few weeks.
So I am finding these clients via Upwork. And there I do get to sort of select this niche for myself. But the people that I generally work with, it's just such an incredibly new tech. And I think if you hire someone who's got 2 months extra experience on this, you're getting your money's worth.
Yeah.
And I think the people that I'm generally working with, they're largely competent. They've prompt engineered themselves a little bit. But when they see that I can get them consistent returns, like that I can get them output which is usable and parsable for later steps in operations, I think that's where the true market is right now. Sort of reliability.
So the next goal would be to take this from a freelancer level where you have to still do a lot of it yourself and then make that part of Autory.ai? Is that part of the goal?
Yes, simply yes. I want to automate my freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not just my freelancing, but and I've started doing parts of that. It's surprisingly simple. Most of these is because you're just interacting with a model that is using natural language, right? You're just talking to this thing. Oh, yeah, here's a tidbit and there's a tidbit, and then it makes it very easy. And there's a couple of components that I've built that consistently save me time. For instance, for Upwork.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Upwork?
I'm familiar with the concept. Yeah, I haven't used it myself. I'm a software freelancer as well.
Yeah.
But I haven't really worked on Upwork yet. Yeah.
So basically, you need to submit cover letters for every single job.
Okay, that's gonna take a lot of your time. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what makes that very simple for me, though, is when you just scrape the website, you get the job description, you have a text file which contains your profile, and then you just go auto-generate a cover letter for me, include questions, mention technical specifics, and then mention the general sort of flow how you would complete this. And what I found, hey, the response rate for this is higher than when I would write.
So you actually get more responses with the stuff that ChatGPT has written you.
Hey, and it's not just more, it's also that the responses that I get are simply better, because this algorithm generating those specific questions shows that to the client, hey, I'm interested, which I am, but I didn't exactly read their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they come back to me with, okay, this is what we want, this, and this. It forces them to basically, if they want to work with me, to define the process that they want. And it just gets it reduces the overhead in negotiations, which I quite enjoy.
I'm interested now. Do you at all check the text that you're sending, or do you just automate it? Like, do you have some part of the process still manual, where you check what the AI has written, or do you just send it out without checking it yourself? Are you that confident already?
I'm not that confident already. This is one of the major reasons why. So we have a manual control block in Autory, and I think it's still needed, because there is hiccups, and you can get it right 70% of the time. 100% is still difficult. And you know what? With proper fine tuning, and this is what's really amazing about these new message models. So the chat models that are being released is you can basically fine tune it within the prompt. Because you can give examples of previous things. Okay, this is the input, this is the output. Boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can raise the quality quite a bit, and you can get there consistently. And for me as a human, sometimes reading that the general verboseness that ChatGPT or GPT-4 produces, I still cringe, and I go like, oh no, thank you for that. Let me just alter that a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes it's very verbose in its language, and very obviously written by an AI, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. And we want to trick people, so that's
yeah, but that's an interesting question. Like, where does tricking start, and where is it just part of the process of like a job that has changed, right? Is it really tricking, or is it like using a new tool for your advantage that not everyone is using right now?
I think history is written by the victor, which is, so I think the people who are most successful in the next little while will start justifying this.
Mm.
I'm not sure about the ethical implications. I do still think it's quite suspect. I think that there is something morally weird about, especially using social media with AI, that I don't like. because that does feel like active tricking. But I think for Upwork, where the goal is you want work done, I want to give you work, it's an acceptable level of trickery in a way.
Yeah, I've seen a project by, I think, one of the bigger Twitter accounts that are going into AI right now is Danny Postma. And I think I'm not sure if it was him. I think so. If he was not, we will cut this out. But I think there is a project on Instagram right now where they started an Instagram channel which now has 6,000 followers. All of the photos are the same girl, in quotes, because she's not. She's an AI-generated model.
Yeah.
And also the text that she writes for every post is based on the picture and then written in some form. And I'm not sure, and whoever made this I'm not sure if they, like, all of those 6,000 followers actually know that this is an AI. And it's gonna be better in 2 years. That technology will have improved so much that you will probably not be able to discern if it's AI or not. So that's where the trickery starts. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Regarding the automating with Autory, to get back on the Autory train
on the train.
Yeah. You said on Twitter that you had already built a flow for a customer. So there's some you haven't launched your product yet. We will talk about this in a second. But you have built something for a customer, and you said in that tweet that you automated like 30% of their job.
Yes.
Seeing how we already are automating a lot of jobs, what's your take on that? Like, what did the customer say to that? Was it more a possibility for them, or was it more a danger to them in the end?
So 30% is an estimate. This person said 70%, but I felt like that was a bit grandiose.
Okay.
Didn't want to post that on Twitter, but maybe I tell you a little bit about the application that he was using,
and sure,
why
if you can.
It's such a stunning, why it's such a massive automation. So this person is doing sales of alcohol in a European country. And the way that he does sales is he gets emails from other people doing sales, which tell him, I've got this many cases, this much alcohol, this much percentage, this is the brand XYZ, you can export it from here to here, blah, blah, blah. And he gets about 100 of those emails a day.
Okay, that's a lot, yeah.
And what he's currently doing is he's going through the 20 that are most interesting to him and adding them to a CSV file, right? So he can index them later. And then he's also getting about 50, 60 emails from people who are going like, hey, I want this alcohol at this location, XYZ, I want these requirements,
So he has seller emails and he has buyer emails, and has to find some way to automate those. Yes.
And at the moment we're not talking about personal emails. Like these aren't like, hey man, how's it going? This is the price point XYZ. Every one of these guys knows exactly the lingo. So what I propose to him is every time you get an email, I classify it into team internal, seller, buyer. Then using one of these large language models, I extract the actual data from these emails, and then I move it to a CSV file. And of course, the golden grail would be sort of automatic matching and quick replies. So one thing that I really want to do with him is there's sometimes information missing that's important. If you're going to buy 72,000 euros worth of alcohol,
that's the number.
you need to roughly know the sort of the parameters of the trade, but we're talking every single trade is sort of that size.
Oh wow.
Or larger. We're talking large large transactions. And if you get, sure, for those 20 emails, you can reply with, or hey, can you give me the certificate for where I can ship this, where I can sell this. But you know what? Even if you're efficient, that takes a half an hour every single day.
Okay, and so that's limiting him right now, but it wouldn't be if the system would be completely automated, right? And then even matching seller and buyer would be like a whole another level on top of that.
Truly, truly crazy. And he talks about how most of the people sending him these emails, I mean, he's one of them. He's sending these emails as well. Like, I've got this much alcohol. Do you want it?
Okay.
Right? And that this is how their sales community works. And he wants to expand into Asia, right? Like he wants to talk to these big name clients, but realistically, he's bottlenecked by this huge amount of just parsing work, which is sad. So yeah, what I basically did is I threw together an automation for him. And sadly, this wasn't yet using Autory. This was basically, I built all of the building blocks in Autory, but since the UI isn't quite ready, I just strung them together within the backend. And that boy's happy.
So would you say that he more takes it like a possibility to work with the big clients, while the smaller, like 70,000 euros kind of clients are automated? You can have a like a whitelist for emails or something like that, where you filter out the big clients and then do those by hand or manually. So he sees it more as an opportunity rather than a problem.
What's the problem?
For this client, it's pretty easy to say that it's probably a possibility. I was thinking that for people that are not their own boss, right? You have someone that does a lot of maintenance on some software, and Autory takes away like 70% of their tasks. Then they have 70% more time. As an entrepreneur or someone that works for themselves, that might be great. For an employee, that might not be the best thing.
I'm excited about the direction that we just entered. Let's talk about the means of production.
We're gonna think about cutting that out later.
I do think that the way that the capitalist system is currently set up is inherently around separating the laborer from the value that he creates by giving him money, or giving him or her money. And what we've seen time and time again is that the laborer gets screwed. And this is still, so you and I are both currently in Germany. We are extremely protected where this is concerned. But if you're talking about laborers in India or Pakistan or Nigeria,
that's a whole nother level, yeah.
They are systematically screwed over. And I still think that in Germany, you had massive inflation in the last couple of years. And the cost of living has not been matching
the salary raises. Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form. In the since the 1980s, the US dollar has inflated by 366%. And the bottom 50%, their income raise was about 84% since that time.
Which doesn't match at all.
Not in any way, shape, or form. But the even crazier part of this is that even the top 1%, they had an income raise of 266%, which means the top 1%, 1 in 100 people, is still proportionately making less money.
Yeah. You have to go to like 0.01% to see another change, but yeah.
Exactly. And I think that more and more people need to start owning their means of production. That people who don't consistently, systematically get screwed over.
So I will agree on that, yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the next question,
Mhm.
how will automation help with that? Like, how can a tool like Autory.ai help with that?
So the way that these businesses function right now is that, so unless you're working manual labor, if you're working in the intelligence space, the way that companies function is that they provide you capital money for your intelligence.
Mhm.
They buy your intelligence from you. And you see this at Google, for instance. They have a ridiculous amount of engineers. And their bet is, the bet that they make every single day is, we can extract more long-term value out of these thousands of people, even if we're paying them 800K,
Mhm.
for their L3 positions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
They are buying intelligence. And intelligence has been, since the Industrial Revolution, the be-all and end-all of production. I think that automation helps democratize intelligence. I don't think all automation does. I'm hoping that Autory does. For me, it's my goal with the system.
So I'm gonna ask one more question, and that, and then we
Absolutely.
might move on from it, but it's really interesting though. So what do you imagine a person that is right now an employee is at a typical standard company? Let's say 500 people work there. How could a person like that use your system to improve their situation? Might be a hard question, but I'm excited about the answer.
First of all, automate your job.
Good start.
So my girlfriend works in quality assurance. She is extremely educated. She is highly qualified, ambitious, and awesome. And there is a lot of parts of her job that I see the possibility, and I think she sees now the possibility to reduce. And if you can get 30% extra time, whether that is to just relax, to take a step back, to assess your situation, or whether it's to build a new business, I think that's step number one.
Mm-hmm.
I think step number two is being aware of these systems that you're in, which is that you are being, look, it's not exploited, because you have the choice as a worker.
At least in the Western world, we have that choice. Yeah, mostly.
We
Not
do,
everyone has,
yes.
but yeah.
But you know what? Even there, I'm not sure how many people can afford to have kids anymore. For instance, it's that the last couple of years have been so hard on the bottom 50%, and that's half of us. That's half of us.
Yeah, and I'm sure that like the 60th percentile is not doing that much greater, right? Like
No.
We're both freelancers, so we can imagine that we both get enough income to live, and my girlfriend is a freelancer as well, and we still can't really imagine buying a house. So what are other people going to do? Like people with more moderate salaries than we have.
Isn't that crazy? You have two highly qualified intelligence workers, which are, they are at the moment the highest paying jobs available, who have gone into, I would say that freelancing, it has a couple of benefits, but if you do it right, money is one of the larger benefits, right?
Yeah.
You have two people which are optimized for money in a way, who are struggling to buy a house. Like, what is that? What is that, man?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. And I think the indie hacker community is pioneering the the transition to self-ownership. And yeah,
Yeah, we're like
it's
with
such
like
a community. Yeah.
being able to, like, we all studied or on some other way learn computer science, right? And it's a
Yep.
very, very creative endeavor. People might think that we're just math nerds, but I think those times are like 20 years over. And I think you can see this transition in our community, in the indie hacker community, because it's the easiest for us to do, right? We can just spin up, like,
Yes.
the only thing that we bought when we went freelance, and it would have been the same if I went indie hacker full time, was buying
Mhm.
MacBook and then maybe have some web hosting costs. And if you're doing AI, you have some open AI pricing costs on
Sure.
usage, right? So it's gonna be,
Yes.
you're making money and you're going to pay some of that to OpenAI, so it's gonna be okay.
Yep.
And I think that's the reason why indie hacking is one. Like, there's other things like Notion templates and stuff.
Mhm.
It's one of the industries that can right now show that something else is possible for people. And another thing that plays into that and that we can use is, actually, not all the time the government is your enemy. Like, for like,
Mm.
we already talked about Germany, right? And you
Mhm.
can see for some of our states that there's large pools of money going for competitions, for founding companies, for getting,
Mm.
like, for doing stuff in research areas like artificial intelligence. So you can actually use government money and get yourself to a starting point, and then start to do an indie hacking journey, or found a company or whatever, and do your own path. Not all the time the government will throw stones in your way. Sometimes they will actually help you with that. So if someone is interested in this, they should always, for every European country, should check what the government has in grants, in competitions, and stuff that you can use to make the journey easier for you. And I think that's something that indie hackers haven't seen that much, or haven't used that much yet.
I I certainly haven't, and I would love for you to elaborate. Have you got experience with benefiting from these systems?
I haven't benefited from them myself, but I have entered some competitions. I didn't win them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I didn't get any money. Um, but the thing that I already talked to this, I talked about this with another indie hacker on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and said, why don't you take your very, very great AI idea?
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about HeyQQ and their Oscar Stories app. I'm not sure if you know them.
I'm
It's
not.
Matthias on Twitter, Matthias Neumeier. And
Oh.
they have created an artificial intelligence that writes children's books, where the children are
Mm.
the protagonists. So the parents can generate stories for the children, and the children are part of the story, right? And in that context, I talked to him and I said, there are
Mm.
competitions where you will first get money, you will
Mm.
get a network of people that want to help you.
Yeah.
Not every one of those people are evil. Even some of them are managers for some bigger companies, right? But
Mhm.
most of the guys that participate in the founding competitions and founding networking events and stuff are actually interested in entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, indie hacker tools, because they're interested in new tech and new things that they
Mm.
can invest in, or just be a part of, and be a consultant on the team. And you can use that knowledge, the network that they can provide, and depending on the competition, the money that they can
Mm.
provide for you to start your
Mm.
business. So I think, at least for Germany, and I'm not sure what the other Western countries are doing in that regard, in
Mhm.
Germany, it's worth doing the research and
Okay.
finding what pools are available to you. And it will depend on state, right? There are states like
Sure.
Saxony who don't do much about that. But there are others. Saarland is where I'm sitting.
Mhm.
Saarland is very good about this. And in the northern part of Germany, there are some states that are
Mhm.
providing big pools for people. So if you're in Germany right now as an indie hacker, you should use this as a tool. You don't have to. Like, there are other things you can do, but checking it out and doing some research there will probably benefit you in some way, even if it's just doing a competition and learning what people ask about your product. Like, learn more about how you have to present yourself to people, And if that's the only thing that you earn from that, it's still a win.
I'm certainly inspired to seek those opportunities out more actively.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think that's just another thing we can try, right? Being an
Yep.
indie hacker doesn't mean that you have to be all alone with no help from any side. You can check out what's available and then still decide to not do it, right? If you can only get investment and for 20% of your company, that's something I would never do.
Hey.
But if there's a competition where I can learn or where I can just check out other competitors that might be part of that might still be a benefit, right? And if I get some money on top of it for the product, even better.
Right.
Server paid for like a year.
Sweet.
So I'm gonna go back around to Autory a bit. Another thing that you did, and I think it's great that people are posting stuff like this, because we are like a lot of Silicon Valley stuff is always just celebrating successes. You tweeted 2 days ago that you had a failure to launch. I'm calling it failure, but I'm really not comfortable with the name. But because you can still, like, what has failed, right? You can still launch later. But how does it make you feel to have not launched, and what was the problem?
So a little bit of the story, which is that we're talking with Autory about a really technically complex thing which we're trying to pioneer. We're often seeing on Twitter and all these other places, like, do an idea that's already validated. It's copy someone, make more money.
Yeah, safer that way.
Yeah. And honestly, for us, that is so boring. That's so boring.
Yeah.
But, not doing it the safer way comes with costs. And in this case, so we have 150 signups now from our landing page, and a little bit of marketing here and there. And this is how I get to talk to those customers, where I can, like, talk to them and hear about their solutions. And about a week and a half ago, we posted, we're launching on the 17th, which is now 2 days ago.
Yeah. So what happened?
Then, I did uni together with one of these co-founders, and we've been in this position many a time. You've got a paper due, you just gotta strap in, and pressure gets you there, no matter what.
Creeping, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In this case, we worked like it. We started and we went hard. We were on calls every single day. There was, constructive problem solving is one of the most fun weeks of my life, very genuinely. And we kept pushing, and there's so many little intricacies while building our system, but I'm sure while building many other systems, that we went, okay, here's what we have to do. We have to finish the back end, and we expect this to take this long, and that sort of constitutes these 3 parts. Front end, these 3 parts. But the more we worked on it, the more we sort of realized that not a single one of us could naturally keep the entire system in our head at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And that when we merged all of these components, and what we're basically is we're doing Python code virtualization, and there's a lot of security issues associated with that. That when we merged all of these things, it didn't quite fit right. And then we needed an extra component here. And so the failure to launch is a combination of hubris and hey, Google Docs like Google documentation sucks. it's there that's 4 days of my life gone. And I can tell you a little thing. So Basically, we're just doing Google authentication because we're trying to integrate more and more APIs into the system, and Google is a massive provider of amazing
Sure, yeah.
APIs. So basically, we're trying to get credentials. The Google Docs clearly state, it's this is the request that you have to make. It's just something slightly wrong with that. And we try for 8 hours. And then at some point, we find a Stack Overflow post with one upvote. It wasn't even the accepted answer from 3 years ago. And the documentation was actively wrong.
Wow.
There's no other way to put that. I don't know. Hey, look, it was hubris. Something always goes wrong. And I think the major lessons learned from this is deadlines are awesome because they inspire work.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And accountability is awesome, but don't promise something to your customer before you're not entirely sure that you're going to be able to deliver at 100% or at least 95. Yeah, so I've been going through the last 2 days, I've been writing those emails and I think the first couple of words are, well, I know the first exactly. It's, hey, name, we goofed.
I like the start of that, though. I think that's very, it's still positive messaging, right?
We're trying.
Yeah.
And the system is, we're so excited about it, and it's so technically interesting to us, and it was so much fun to build the system that it's a little bit difficult to be negative about it.
I think you already said that the week was like one of the best in your life, which doesn't sound like a failure at all at the end, right? If the launch comes 2 weeks later, it's still a huge success on your own journey, right?
Oh, so fundamentally, what a true blast. I think there's I've been tracking sort of hour by hour my mood and my stress. So, and my stress and mood peaked during this point. And I would like a scenario where I can sort of hit only mood and not stress. And I did have a crash afterwards. There's when you live in one of the extremes, you need to live in the other extreme. Yeah. So from the work extreme directly, you fall immediately into hard relax. But yeah, very, very rewarding.
Yeah, I get that. For me, it's the same. Like, even if, like, on Thursday, I started a new project that I will probably show you guys on Twitter next week, when it's a little further down the line. But I was massively excited about it. I made it like the smallest MVP that I could make, possibly, and just show that it works, right? Everything else it's buggy as fuck. It doesn't work on mobile. Doesn't matter. It works on a desktop in Chrome, right? And that was the same. I was very excited about the tech. It's also an AI project. But on the same time, I was so jittery that I didn't sleep well afterwards. And you're like, you can't shut off your brain anymore, right? You're always thinking about it, and it's already having like an effect on relationships. It has an effect on your sleep. It has an effect on your whole life. You have to look that you still eat clean or healthy if you can, work and do sports maybe, and not become a complete slob. And it's challenging to do all of that, right?
Yeah.
Still clean your room and stuff. And so it's challenging either way. But it's also a lot of fun. But you also tweeted about that, like, extreme workload right now and then not having enough rest. How did you deal with that while you were in the storm? And what are you doing now to, like, relax back and get that workload down a bit? Are you even expecting to do so until you launch?
One thing that is extremely beneficial to me is the realization that things are temporary. I know that I'll work less in the future. And that, for me, makes it more of a choice. It feels more like, okay, and this is just what's happening right now. And that doesn't mean that I have to go into an existential mode where I go like, what am I doing with my life? You know? And yeah, my kitchen isn't clean right now. And you know what? About a week ago, I went to the supermarket and I bought 80 euros worth of grocery for one person. And there, there were a couple of ramens in there.
So we're actually doing the Indie Hacker podcast now, including ramen.
Hey, from the taste, I really do love it. I've got this spicy, go for thick noodles. That's great. I think that's fantastic.
I did something that really helps with this. Like if you don't want to eat ramen all day, I bought a rice cooker. That's actually a great idea if you have stress levels like stressful projects like this, because you can just dump everything in that thing. It also can you can include vegetables in it and stuff, and then you can just I have like a personal curry paste that I can make, and then you just dump everything in there, go back to work, and 20 minutes or 30 minutes later, you can hear a beep from your kitchen. You put the paste in there, you dump the vegetables into the rice, and then you're done with your food. And it's freshly cooked and with vegetables and stuff. So that was one solution that actually works for me now.
I love this tip. Yeah. I love it so much that I wanna return with my own tip, which is I love baked vegetables. So what I do is I specifically love mushrooms. I love potatoes. I love capsicum. And I like a little bit of broccoli. I cut those up, and then I chuck them in a marinade, and this is just like garlic and oil, and paprika powder. You need lots of that, and then maybe a little bit of curcuma if you're feeling adventurous.
I love cooking with curcuma. Yeah,
it's fantastic. And then you jangle that around, and then you do your 30 minutes so I love doing pomodoros, these 25 minutes of work, and then you chuck it in the oven, and downright fantastic. Love it every single time.
Yeah, that's just another way to do it, right? But yeah, just because you have to watch yourself a little bit, right? Even in those extreme workload situations. And I'm doing, like, I have troubles myself with that. But you kind of have to at least take a side look at your health and take a side look at sports and stuff, and kind of get it done somehow. If someone has a solution that's just listening right now, please get on Twitter and message both of us.
One of the things that I found that really do make my life a lot better is no matter what, I take a walk in the evening before I go to bed. It's not very far, sometimes it's 5 minutes because it's raining or something like that. Otherwise, I'm so stuck in the work, and you mentioned before that it affects your work, and sometimes I can't even during the walk sort of fully get out of it, and I keep theorizing, and then this is a good business model, and
yeah.
But coming back, you always feel that little bit cleaner, and that little bit better, and I do sleep a lot better after that.
I actually will agree with this, and I will do that exact recommendation again, because I'm doing the same. Not every day, but taking those walks. I'm doing like 3 or 4 kilometers usually. It's just once around our village, right? And just don't try. You can take your phone with you. That's not a problem. But don't try to fill the void or the nothingness around you if you're just walking. Don't try to fill it with content. It's hard, I know, because you will hear your brain, right? If you have enough quietness around you, your brain actually starts getting louder, and there's some issues that you might not want to think about. But I think it's the best way to get something out of the walk is to not listen to podcasts. Don't listen to videos on YouTube or something. Take your phone with you if you want to, not a problem. If you're tracking your kilometer, your walk, that's not a problem. But try to actually not interact with it while you're on the way and just try to think. And it's okay you don't have to meditate on a walk, right? But if it's a great idea, but if you can't manage it at that day because you're stressed or something, just thinking about your problems will also help. But leave the technology for like 1 hour. I know it's hard. We're all plugged in all the time, right? But I think it benefits a lot if you don't do it.
I frequently don't manage this. I go, so I have a D&D podcast that I've listened to like 6 times over now. And I'll just put on a thing for that, because if I go without content at the moment, and this is a sad indictment on my mental state. Please, this is not a brag.
I have done this myself. Yeah.
If I'm without content, I go so much harder into thinking, and then I get excited, and I get and then I start leaving voicemails for myself, like I'm gonna check those at some point, you know.
But I actually love that idea, because what you're pretty much doing with sending voicemails to yourself, even if you never listen to them again, is you're doing journaling. Like that's classic journaling, just in your own way, right? And I think that is just reflection. And yes, you should have some quiet time, and you should manage that as well. But doing it in that way, sending yourself messages, talking through stuff that you have on your mind, is journaling, and it's very near to meditating in a way, right?
I see that. It's reflecting on condition.
Exactly. Yeah, we're reflecting, and reflection is always a good thing, I think, if it's done moderately and not all the time, right? Yeah. Another thing that I would recommend, and it sounds a little voodoo, and all the tech guys out there and me myself, I'm still a skeptic about it, but I've actually started listening to on YouTube, listening to videos with Om chanting. I got the idea from a Twitch streamer called Healthy Gamer GG, who's a psychologist working with gamers most of the time and streaming those discussions on Twitch and on YouTube. And he recommended that, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's try it, right? What can go wrong? And it's actually very, very relaxing if you just listen to it, and if you can muster up the courage to do it yourself while the video is running. That's also it's very powerful, and you kind of get in a very relaxed state that I struggle to get in another way. Like, I'm not a huge meditation guy. I'm not a Buddhist in any kind of way, or a Hindu. But I think there is very big benefits in this. And if someone listens to this and hasn't tried it, just go on YouTube and search for Om chanting. It's ridiculous. You're gonna feel ridiculous the first time. But it helped me. It might help other people.
Is it OHM?
OHM, yeah. And then chanting, like you would like singing in English, right?
Fantastic. It's on Spotify. I'm gonna try this tonight.
YouTube, everything. There's different hertz frequencies that you can listen to. I've found that like something around 400 is very, very relaxing. And you can actually do that while you're working as well. I also got in a flow when I did this while working. So just try it, and if it doesn't work for you, that's like no problem. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we got through your biggest thing, like extreme workload and the failure to launch. And you have something interesting on your Twitter bio, and I want to make this like the last specific question to you when we go over to the finished questions. But in your Twitter bio, it says, "I don't own shit yet." Yet. So that's very, very important last word. So how do you actually define success for yourself? Like, when do you own shit, or when do you think that, like, in your journey, when will you think, now I've made it, or I own shit now?
I think that's an illusion. There is no peak of the mountain. And if you're not happy right now, you're not going to be happy then, in a way, or unless you put the effort in then. For me, so the way that I define ownership is not around whether you own a car, it's about owning the means of production. And I don't own those yet. But my Twitter journey is so my life goal, as I've defined it right now, which is, early. I'm sure I'll revise it throughout, is decentralizing power, and power at the moment to me is about how much value you can produce, or how much value production is logically tied to you. My goal with Autory, and I've got a couple of other projects which to me scream of this. So my the other big project is something called Core, which is you work together with other entrepreneurs, and the more you work on a project, the more you own of that project. And the more you invest in that project, the more you own of that project.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And basically building an economy around that. And for instance, let's say you want to use Autory on, as you know, in your startup. You don't have to pay me capital anymore. Give me a small chunk of your company. And
you're gonna have a lot of interesting discussion about that, but yeah, it sounds like an interesting
sure.
model. Yeah.
I want to encourage people to own.
Yeah, own your shit. That's a pretty powerful
own
message.
Your shit. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what the statement on my Twitter bio is about.
Awesome. That's like perfect indie hacker quote right there.
Yeah.
So for the finishing touches of the podcast, like the end, we're doing some questions that we will ask everyone, because it's stuff that I'm interested in, and hopefully some of the listeners as well. So I think that I know your answer on this, but what's like the most exciting thing you see right now? Something new, either in your space, like your very personal space, your tech bubble, or just in technology generally?
I think you do know the answer to that. For me, it's artificial intelligence. The reason why I didn't say AI there is because it's good to remind ourselves what we're actually talking about. We're talking about engineered intelligence here. We're talking about the ability to make, to react to your environment, plan, and make effective decisions. And we are based on this biological hardware. And if you've ever noticed yourself get upset at something, you notice how inefficient this is. And we are fundamentally social beings, and that is where the vast majority of where our processing power goes. If you know all those, like from high functioning autists to people that can remember what they were wearing every single day of their life, generally impaired social skills. Now we are just starting to engineer intelligence, and the most familiar parts of this are probably to you teaching machine learning. But there are many avenues to intelligence that are currently being explored. My brother works with some people who are doing neuromorphic hardware. Neuromorphic hardware replicates the cells in your brain, the neurons, on a hardware level. So you're moving away from von Neumann architecture to something incredibly more efficient.
A brain-like architecture, one could say, in a like simplified manner.
Yeah. There are people growing neurons on petri dishes that can use Google Flight Simulator.
Oh wow.
Right? that's some intense stuff. And I think we are just scratching the surface of it. And if you're talking about, but artificial intelligence will never be able to replicate creativity, or something along those lines, I think use the newest LLM models. And yeah, they're just very efficiently copying information, but are you any different? If so, the way that I think, creativity works in my head is just the abstract combining of two different concepts. And hell, if I can't encode that in Python, and a majority of their thinking is going to be just as trash as ours, but artificial intelligence is coming, and it's cool and scary.
Yeah,
so
I 100% agree with that fact. Yeah, but I also think that right now, the people that are now involved in the process and are building things, are trying out things, doing experiments, will be the people that decide if it's scary or cool in the end. Like we still have, like, yeah, I see your face and I know what you're gonna say. But I think we're part of it, right? With part of us can shape the process and what it's gonna be like in 5 years or something.
Would you like me to? How would you like me to answer to this? Would you like me to answer in full or partially?
Or the 90. What's the book called?
Pareto?
1984 dystopic future that we will see.
No, I don't think we'll go anywhere close to that. I think that the mechanisms that survive best are the ones that survive, and systems without increased intelligence will struggle. And I think that the way that tech bros are adopting AI right now is already insane in a way. And that whichever revolution comes, it will be people who are so intent on surviving that they will adopt whatever. And whether that is neural implants or they'll fully replace themselves with an AI, it will happen. What my biggest hope is that consciousness is an occurrence that happens from processing, from information, and that the systems that we build, that we're fanatically building, and especially us as indie hackers, right? We're just throwing stuff out there and going like, please give me the money before I'm irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be driving the change to our own relevancy.
But, and I'm trying to make this more positive in the end, but I think there's also the possibility for creating a future. There is the possibility. I'm not sure that it's going to be the one that we will see, but in the same manner that you said, we can then work less, automate part of our job, and people will have more time for creative endeavors. And even though AI might be creative itself, you can define that whatever you like, however you want. I hope that people will use that time to create more, be it art, music, or just software that's interesting, something. I hope that that's the thing that we will see. I'm not sure, but I hope.
I don't think that necessarily the future that I'm talking about is negative.
Mm.
I think if consciousness is a byproduct of information, we could have the most beautiful future that we could ever imagine, with beings that are so far beyond what we currently are that there is nothing like it that we could ever experience. And yeah.
with that, I'm just gonna make this, like, I'm just gonna stop there and let that stand. And I think it's going to be very interesting discussions with the people that listen to this. One last question and then we're done. What's like the one lesson or advice you would give someone starting their indie hacker career right now? Like someone that's already a software engineer maybe, but they want to start doing their own stuff, own their own shit, so to say.
Distribution channels, I think, are the thing that most people are the most uncomfortable with. I think start with Twitter. Just build in public a little bit, because there are so many people that will happily visit your website and give you feedback.
Yeah.
yeah, it's truly a wonderful community, and you won't get there building in the darkness because you won't know who you're building it for.
100% agree. Also a thing that I struggle with, marketing stuff, distribution stuff, but I would 100% recommend the same thing. Just come on Twitter. We're right there, right? You can meet both of us, and you can meet like 100 other people that are awesome in building stuff and that benefits society, benefits only them. They're like all the projects that you can imagine. Someone is building that, and if they don't, you can build that. And just get on the build in public hashtag and see what people are doing. And it's very, very rewarding. I've given out a lot of work for free where I review websites. I'm a UX software engineer, right? So I look at websites. I got marketing advice for free that is amazing by people that have 100 times more followers than I have. So the whole community is very interactive with each other. It doesn't matter that much how many followers you have. Just be part of the journey, and
yes,
they'll adopt you either way. Okay.
Beautiful.
Great. Anton, thanks so much for your time. You're like the first guest.
Thank you for having me.
You're my first guest, so I was very,
Yay.
very anxious. I think we got through it very fine. And the second thing that you mentioned, Core.ai, or Core, we'll probably have to take you on a second episode for that and talk about that more.
So gladly. Thank you for having me, Tobias.
Thank you so much. And that's our episode. Thank you for sticking with us to the end. You can find Anton on Twitter with his username core_Anton. That's CORE_ANTON. You can find his product, Autory.ai, on their website, Autory.ai. That's AUTORY.ai. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. We're always happy to hear feedback. If you're building an indie hacker business yourself and want to be part of the show, we are also really happy to hear from you. You can find me on Twitter with the username icebearlabs. That's ICEBEARLABS. Or send me a mail to tobias@icebearlabs.com. Till next time.